Understanding how you spend your money is a critical step in constructing the best credit card setup for your specific situation. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can quickly and easily analyze your expenses so that you can combine your transaction data with your credit card knowledge to construct your perfect credit card strategy. I've been using this method to track my own personal expenses over the past 3 years, and the vast amount of data that I have has helped guide me to my own best credit card setup, so I am super pumped to show you how to do this for yourself. Now, the software we're using is called YNAB, also known as You Need a Budget. And before we get any further, I want to mention that this is not a sponsored video, but I've gotten so much value from YNAB that I have no problem recommending it as a tool to help level up your understanding of your financial picture. Of course, this app was designed for budgeting, and there are tons of features to help you design a great budget, but we're not going to use this software for that purpose. Instead, we're going to use it for expense tracking and combine a browser extension called Toolkit for YNAB to create beautiful charts and tables of your spending data in seconds. Now, one unfortunate thing about YNAB is that it can be very confusing when you first start using it. But to help with that understanding, the first and most important thing to understand about YNAB is that it's nothing more than a glorified check register. A check register is a list of transactions in your accounts that you manually put in that shows you the funds coming in and the funds coming out. And even though YNAB can connect directly to your bank account and credit card accounts, its only function is to import your transaction data automatically for convenience purposes only. As a matter of fact, you can just input them manually, and that's actually what I do. After every transaction I make, I input it manually into YNAB, usually using the app on my phone, but since I also connect my accounts directly to my bank, YNAB will automatically import those transactions as well, double checking my work and ensuring that no transactions are missed. Okay, so to show you how this all works, I'm going to need some transaction data to work with, and to help me do this, we're going to create a credit card setup from scratch using a challenge presented by a viewer, The Pan. In this challenge, The Pan wrote, "Stan, I have a challenge for you. Assume a family of 4 making the median $75,000 per year. The goal is to maximize their rewards with as few credit cards as possible. The benchmark is the 2% card." And as you can see below, this is the monthly breakdown of their budget. $1,500 for housing, $600 for grocery, $150 for gas, $250 for utilities, and $100 for eating out. And if I use the smartasset.com paycheck calculator, making this salary in the Los Angeles area, the estimated monthly take-home pay is about $4,700, assuming no pre-tax or post-tax deductions. So since the previous budget is only about $2,600 in total, I'm going to add a $150 transit category as well as a $750 everything else category, which leaves about $1,200 for savings and investing because that's very important too. And so if a 2% card is our benchmark, that means with $3,500 in spend, we'd expect to save $70 in cash back per month. So let's see if we can create a credit card setup that can do better by analyzing our expenses using YNAB. Now, before we get started, I do want to point out that YNAB is a paid subscription service. There are 2 plans available, a monthly plan for $14.99 per month and an annual plan for $99, which comes out to about $8.25 per month at the time of the recording of this video. And I'm not a big fan of subscription services, just like the rest of you, but I can definitely say that the cost of this service has definitely been worth it for me. So what I recommend is first watch this video and see if YNAB would be a good fit for you. And if so, you can use my referral link in the description below to get a 34-day free trial so you can experience how powerful this software is for yourself. And if you use my referral link and decide to sign up for the service, both you and I will get 1 month free. So if you do so, thank you so much in advance. Okay, so after you sign up for YNAB, it's also important to also get the free browser extension called Toolkit for YNAB. This is a third-party browser extension that adds powerful analytic functionality to YNAB itself, allowing you to create beautiful charts and graphs quickly using your transaction data. And once you get the extension, there are also a lot of awesome visual settings to play around with so you can customize the look and feel of YNAB itself too. Okay, so now that you've signed up for YNAB and installed the browser extension, Toolkit for YNAB, let's jump over to the computer so I can show you how this all works. So when you start your first budget with YNAB, this is going to be your home screen. Starting on the left, you can see that you're on the budget tab and the 3 other tabs, which are Reports, Toolkit Reports, and All Accounts. The Budget tab is great for creating your budget, setting your category groups like bills, as well as the categories under each group such as rent, mortgage, electric, water, etc. And we're going to start here. And just to make things a whole lot simpler, I'm going to delete everything on the screen and we'll start with a fresh budget. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so as credit card enthusiasts, our goal here is to organize our budget so we can extract transaction data to help us make credit card decisions. So I'm going to create the following categories by clicking this button here to add a category group and then type the name of the group in this input box here. Okay, so now I've just added the following category groups: housing, restaurants, groceries, gas, travel, transit, everything else, and non-credit card spend. Next, under each category group, we'll enter the relevant categories, so let's go ahead and do that now by clicking this plus button here. And I'm going to add my first one under housing, which would be rent, and then I'll add another category called mortgage. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same for the rest of the category groups, so let me just go do that and I'll come back when it's all done. All right, so I just did that, and this will help us specify what type of spend we have under each category group. For example, under restaurants, I have dining out and food delivery. Under groceries, I have delivery and in-store. And under travel, I have the classics such as airfare, hotel, and rental car. I also want to point out the bottom categories here with clothing and electronics in the everything else category group, and electricity, gas, and cable internet in our non-credit card spend category group as well, which are the expenses that come out of our checking account. You can already see how customizable this is, and you can certainly adapt any category group or subcategories exactly how you want to so it fits your own life, of course with credit cards in mind. Okay, so now that we have all our categories set up, let's turn our attention to this section here to add our accounts. When we first click Add Account, you'll be met with an option to choose a linked or unlinked account. And just a quick note about linked accounts: YNAB uses Plaid for most connections, but they'll switch to a different provider for some banks if they have recurrent connectivity issues using Plaid. They actually just did this with American Express and switched them from Plaid to OAuth, which has made transaction imports with Amex very seamless since it was having issues with Plaid in the past. But if there's ever an issue, you can always head to this website here where YNAB keeps you up to date on how they're solving any connectivity problems for your direct import providers. But going back, we're actually going to create unlinked accounts so we can input our sample transactions, so let's go ahead and do that now. The first thing we'll do is create a checking account, so we'll create it here and call it Wells Fargo Checking. Select checking from the account type, and then input the starting account balance, which will be 0. Okay, so once you do that, click Done, and you can see that a new account has populated under Budget, which is the checking account that we've just created. As the account is already selected, we can see that our register for this account shows the starting balance of $0 here. Now, we could certainly use our checking account for everything, but because we like to use credit cards, we'll be using a very solid, no annual fee cashback setup consisting of the Wells Fargo Autograph, Wells Fargo Active Cash, and Capital One Saver One cards. Okay, so now we've completed adding those accounts to YNAB. You can see them all here on the left, and as I click through each one, I can see the individual registers and transaction for each account. I can also click the All Accounts tab, and now I can see all my transactions in one screen, which can be very helpful to see your entire register as a whole. Okay, so now we have our categories set up and we have our accounts set up. Let's now populate YNAB with some transactions. And since I'm filming this video in January 2024, I'm going to roll these starting balances back to December 2023 so we can have the whole month to work with. Okay, so now all of these starting balances are on December 1st, 2023. I'm going to show you how to add a transaction in YNAB, and we'll start with our rent payment on December 1st, as well as our first W-2 paycheck for the month. And so the first thing that we'll do is click Add Transaction. And when this transaction screen pops up, you can see here that you can first select the right account. And so for our rent payment, we'll be selecting our checking account for this purpose. We're going to set the date to December 1st. And then make our payee Acme Realty. And we can also select our category, and you can see that all the categories that we made before are now accessible here. So let's go ahead and select the rent category under housing. And of course, the charge is $1,500, so we'll put that here under outflow and then click Save. Okay, so you can see that our transaction is now on the screen here. And so for our first W-2 paycheck, I'll do the same thing, but instead I'll put the amount of $4,700 into the inflow section instead of the outflow section. And there we go. Okay, so you get the idea. So now I'm going to add a bunch of sample transactions using this method, and I'm going to come back when I'm done. Okay, so now I've inputted all of my transactions. You can see that if I want to see all my transactions by account, I can click on the left here and it sorts all of them depending on which account I select. And I can also filter transactions by using the search bar up here on the top right. So YNAB has a lot of great features for budgeting, but doing the nitty-gritty of that is beyond the scope of this video. What we're really here for is the data. So let's now click on the Toolkit Reports tab, and this is going to blow you away. For our purposes, there are 3 sections in Toolkit Reports that I want to cover: spending by category, spending by payee, and income versus expense. So let's first start with spending by category. You can see that when I click this section, you get a visual breakdown of your total spending for this month, as well as the breakdown by category group, both in chart and tabular formats. And if you click on one of these sections in the pie chart, we can go one level deeper and see what makes up each category group. So for example, I can click on non-category spend and see my breakdown of what I spend in these categories, and this knowledge can be very helpful to see if you can add other credit cards to capture this spend. So in this situation, adding the US Bank Cash Plus card would be great to get 5% cash back on those home utilities and internet bills. Now we're only looking at the expenses for this month, but I want to point out that you can certainly change the range of time by clicking here and making your time frame as customizable as you want. And if you want to sort your transaction data by merchant, you can click the next section, which is spending by payee. And in this section, you can see what we spent this month and also with what merchant, which can help us understand more about where we spend our money. And finally, we'll click the income versus expense section, and this one is incredibly powerful. You can see a very nice income expense table has been populated, showing us our income, our expenses, and the breakdown for each of them, as well as the average and total spending. And right now, the table is pretty simple, but imagine having 3 months, 6 months, or even 12 months of transaction data. This is a great way to track your expenses and really make some data-driven decisions on how you spend your money. Okay, so now that we've done our spending for the month, let's calculate our cash back and see how we did compared to the challenge we were issued earlier. On the Wells Fargo Autograph card, we earned 3x points back on our $100 dining, $150 transit, and $150 gas purchases, which totals $12 in cash back. On the Capital One Saver One card, we earned 3x points back on our $600 of grocery purchases, which totals $18 in cash back. And on the Wells Fargo Active Cash card, we earned 2x points back on $750 in our Everything Else category, getting us $15 in cash back. So in total, with this setup, we earned $45 of cash back this month, which falls very short of our cash back target of $70 that we established earlier. But here's what's nice about the data that we just got. Of course, we can see that housing is our highest expense, and since we're paying rent, we can definitely use the Built MasterCard to get us 1x points back on that spend, or $15 at a 1 cent per point valuation. And if we look at our non-credit card spend, we can see that our electric and gas utilities are uncovered, as well as our cable and internet bill. So if we were to cover these $250 of utilities with the US Bank Cash Plus card for home utilities and internet at 5% cash back, this would total an additional $12.50. Totaling everything all together, that would be $72.50 of cashback, which now beats our benchmark cashback value on just a single 2% cashback card by $2.50. Now this doesn't seem like a lot, but remember, this assumes a flat 2% cashback on $1,500 of rent, but we still need to factor in the credit card fee, which is usually about 3%, or in this case, $45. So if we subtract $45 from the $70 of cashback from the baseline 2% setup, this results in a total cashback value of $25, and you can see what a big difference this makes. So as you can see, by using YNAB to track your expenses, this opens up a lot of opportunities to make data-driven decisions on what could be your next best credit card to maximize points, miles, or cash back on your everyday expenses. And if you're looking for the best no annual fee credit card setup, and if this setup could be a great fit for you, check out this video next.